This is not easy to understand, and I'm not sure I want to get very dependent on something I don't understand. For example, new bitcoins are mined, as the term is, by huge banks of computers doing huge amounts of number crunching. Once mined, a bitcoin is a long string of computer code protected by a personal key which provides ownership and security. The usage history is recorded in a giant ledger known as a blockchain, said to be a verification and security device. Simon Dixon is a former London investment banker who got interested in alternative money and then wrote a book called Bank to the Future. That's also the name of his company, which acts as a marketplace for peer-to-peer lending and borrowing. But please, Simon Dixon, what exactly is Bitcoin?
It's programmable money, and by that I mean, think about the internet. It was originally this thing called an HTTP protocol, and then later web browsers and Google and Facebook was all created because they made the technology programmable. Now what we have for the first time is programmable money. So now we don't need to rely on a bank in order to do all the innovation. Any entrepreneur or developer can come along and program on top of this network, and that opens up for lots and lots of innovation. No one knows exactly what the application is going to be, but the first application was currency. That's only the first application.
Now, of course, one of the dazzling things about Bitcoin is the way it's gone up in value over the last 5 years. That's a bit of a distraction from just being money, isn't it? It turns it into some sort of nebulous thing like gold, doesn't it?
Absolutely. So one of the features of Bitcoin is that there'll only ever be 21 million of these Bitcoins. And because it's a fixed supply, it attempted to mimic the process of mining for gold. And when you're mining for gold, originally you could get a pickaxe in your garden and it was very plentiful, which it was in the beginning with Bitcoin. Nowadays, it's more sophisticated rigs and very complicated process to find the last bits of gold in the ground. That's the same with Bitcoin over time. And because it's a fixed supply, rather than a traditional currency where the central bank can create new currency at any time, or private banks can create new currency every time they issue a loan, it's a lot more volatile. It's also very small compared to a traditional currency.
It's easy to feel confused about the claims made and the prospects for digital money, and there seem to be dozens of different digital currencies either issued or promised. The British government last year called for submissions from interested parties on the risks and benefits of digital currencies in order to make decisions that will enable Britain to remain a major international financial centre. Simon Dixon gave me some more insights into the potential uses of Bitcoin, the kind of ideas the government here is considering.
Bitcoin in its existing form is kind of where the internet was in 1995. Not very useful, very geeky, hard to use, and that's kind of where Bitcoin is today. But that's not where it's going to be. You know, we've had £500 million of venture capital invested in companies that are building new applications on top of this technology. Now you're seeing the first applications. You have the ability to do things that you couldn't do before. So for example, you can do transactions which require 3 or 4 or 5 or 100 people all to sign before the money is actually transferred. Imagine you're somebody that is renting your property or you're selling your property, and you let it out to a tenant, and if they don't pay for 3 months in a row, this money could be programmed to the key on the door and can lock the door in the future. I can transport money. I could transport fractions of pennies to my wife's family in Bangladesh, and they can receive that money as long as they're connected to the internet with no permission from a bank, whether they have the correct identification. So that has advantages in certain markets. Now, if you're living in the UK and you have access to all sorts of financial services, it's very hard to see the benefits of that right now. Imagine a business like Google that employs hundreds of thousands of people all around the world in different currencies. You can actually automate the whole process of paying all of your staff in one currency, transferring that to another currency, all in one go, automated, instead of having lots and lots of people in the payment process.
Hang on a minute, I'm getting lost. Didn't companies used to pay employees in vouchers that could only be used in the company's store? And wasn't that banned by law? Did not banks all around Britain used to issue their own banknotes, which were only worth the full amount on the face of the note when they were presented at a branch of the issuing bank? All this talk of new money may also introduce more uncertainty to a banking system that was trembling on the brink during the financial crisis only a few years ago. Simon Dixon, what I think I want is nice, simple money.
In the future, most people, everyday people, will be using Bitcoin and not know they're actually using it. So I will be paying you in pounds, and that will be transported using the benefits of Bitcoin and then converted instantaneously back to pounds without you even know you're using it. So it's much like the rails of it. So inventions like Skype came along, and what they did with Skype is they said, well, let's put our version of a phone network on top of the internet, and they called it voice over IP. In the future, money over IP will be used, MOIP, and Bitcoin is highly likely to be the rails whereby you can transport it. You don't need a bank in the middle, and you don't need all the bonuses and fees being paid in the middle in order to make that transaction now. So one of the user cases in the future is you probably won't even know you're using the network, but it will pay you in a way that you understand. And that's the benefit of programmable money. All this money can be transferred very seamlessly and easily to things that you understand.
Simon Dixon of Bank to the Future. The internet is disrupting lots of familiar things, and money is one of them. Big questions are being asked. Who needs banks? Who needs cash? Who needs credit? And behind all these, one even larger question, as I feel for my wallet. Who do I trust?
In Business was presented by Peter Day. The producer was Caroline Bailey. Next week's programme is all about the world's biggest trade negotiations.